Hello my dear friends, you're in the middle of a summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And this night probably was the craziest night since the beginning of the special military operation. The Russians once again carried out massive missile and drone attack through the territory of Ukraine, especially the Russians were attacking the city of Kiev. But when talking about numbers and weapons that the Russians were using, you might say that nothing special was within this attack, so why did I call this attack as the craziest attack since the beginning of the special military operation? So I would like to point your attention, I think that most of the sources missed this article that was published by pro-Ukrainian sources, but I think that this article worth attention. So this article was published by monitoring sources, or pro-Ukrainian monitoring sources, and this article was published this morning, and this article says that somewhere at 2 a.m. Tu-22 M3 aircraft launched Ha-22 cruise missiles over the Kiev region. So from this statement, nothing special. Maybe the most important thing is that the Russians used Ha-22 probably for the first time since 2022, since the beginning of the special military operation, but this is also not the most important point. So this attack took place from within the Bryansk region. So this source is saying, emphasizing that within the Bryansk region from 4 to 6 Tu-22 M3 aircraft were recorded. However, only 3 Tu-22 M3 aircraft carried out combat missions. As a result of the attack, the destruction of an energy facility in the Kiev agglomeration was recorded. The consequences in Kiev are being clarified. So from this statement, you may see that it is nothing special. So now let's discuss what is special in this attack and why this attack that took place between the 23rd and the 24th of this January of 2026 was the craziest probably since the beginning of the special military operation, and what differs this attack from any other attack. So, and the most important, of course, is this article. So, according to this article, according to this map, we have this red point. As you can see, this is the red point. I'm pointing your attention. So, this is most likely something like a launching site where the Russian Tu-22 M3 aircraft were launching their Ha-22 missiles. So, if we return back to our map, this red point is located somewhere here. So, Russians from this area attacked the territory of Ukraine. So this is, telling the truth, the most important piece of news probably for a very long period of time. So why is that? First of all, let's calculate the distance. The distance between this launching site and the city of Kiev itself is already around 300 kilometers, or even maybe even less when talking about the exact destination of these missiles. So Russians launched their missiles with Tu-22 strategic aviation aircrafts. So, which means, and when talking about Ha-22 missiles, which means that these missiles crossed this distance, these 300 kilometers, not within hours, not within tens of minutes. These missiles crossed this area, crossed this territory within seconds or within just minutes, which means that Ukrainians didn't have even a single, probably single hour, single minute to understand what exactly the Russians were planning to attack, and they didn't have enough of time to prepare their air defense forces to repel this attack. This is a first important thing. The second important thing is that once again the Russians were attacking the territory of Ukraine with Tu-22 M3 aircrafts from the territory of the Russian Federation, which is located just in 30 kilometers from the border between Ukraine and Russia. Telling the truth, and according to information from the open source, Ukraine, according to official data, has all means to bring down these aircrafts. Ukraine has Patriot systems, Ukraine has F-16s, Ukraine has a lot of things to bring down these Tu-22 missiles. No, it's the wrong statement. The Ukrainians have enough of means to make this territory of the Russian Federation, let's say, unflight territory without any possibilities for Tu-22 or for Tu-160 or for Tu-95 to enter this territory of the Russian Federation, due to risk of being destroyed by Ukraine's F-16s or Patriot systems. But the Russians, they wanted to show this. The Russians shown us that currently they are able with their strategical aviation to fly along the border and to attack objects of different infrastructure on the territory of Ukraine within seconds, because if Russians once again launched Ha-22 missiles from this territory, this means that these missiles hit the target within minutes or maybe even seconds. And this attack also shown us that most likely Ukraine has huge problems with air defense and with F-16s. And another and the most important conclusion that we must make based on this article is that tomorrow the Russians, with their strategical aviation or with their Tu-22M3 aircrafts, are able to enter the airspace of Ukraine and to begin attacking the territory of Ukraine and objects of critical infrastructure from the airspace of Ukraine. And if it happens, this can lead to completely unpredictable consequences, because from this very moment, Ukrainians will not be able to do anything with these aircrafts and with these missiles, because basically they will not have enough of time to react and to respond to the situation. So this is the most important thing. The Russians managed to suppress air defense forces of the armed forces of the Russian Federation, and the Russians shortened the distances between launching sites and critical objects and objects of critical infrastructure through the entire territory of Ukraine. So now let's continue and let's talk about this attack once again. This is the picture of the approximate routes of attacks that took place during the previous night. As you can see, once again, the Russians were using drones. We are talking about yellow lines. The Russians were using orange lines. This is ballistic Iskander missiles. The Russians used Ha-22 missiles. These are green lines. These are them. And the Russians used, according to information we have, 2 hypersonic Zircon missiles that were launched from the almost the Black Sea region. So this is the Zircon missile, and also with this Zircon missile, the Russians attacked the city of Kiev itself. Also this morning, the Minister of Defense of Ukraine reported that during the previous night, the Russians used around 400 air vehicles, including drones and missiles altogether, and the Ukrainians managed to bring down 372. So according to pro-Ukrainian sources, according to the Minister of Defense of Ukraine, just 24 missiles and drones managed to get the targets in the area of the city of Kiev. So as of now, we are not able to check this information, but this is what the Ukrainian sources are trying to tell us. And of course, during the previous night, we received lots of videos. In this video, we can see huge problems in the building with the heat water. As you can see, due to weather, due to blackouts, due to power outages, we see that the entire building is going under the water. So, and this water is very hot because this water is coming from the heat system. So here we can see how some substations through the territory of Kiev were exploding under the pressure of the entire system and so on. So as you can see, the system, the energy system and the energy infrastructure of Ukraine began destroying itself without even help from the Russian side. Here we can see the strikes. The sources are saying that this is the city of Kharkiv. Yes, we will change the icon. So here we can see how Russians were attacking the city of Kharkiv during the previous night. Also, we have an article in Kiev and the surrounding regions. A massive combined strike was carried out on the power station number 5 and 6, and likely on the substation 700 kV in Bila Tserkva, which connects the Ukrainian capital with the nuclear power plant, as well as on the Kievsk electrical substation in the locality of Nalivaykovka. According to unconfirmed reports, the Russian armed forces today used Iskander missiles and supersonic, not hypersonic, but supersonic Ha-22 cruise missiles against the positions of the armed forces of Ukraine and critical infrastructure. So and the later had not been seen there since the summer of 2022. So the last time the Russians used Ha-2022 in 2022. So this is the situation. Another important video. Here we can see how Russians were attacking multi-story buildings with drones. So we can see a very heavy explosion. We don't see a drone, but we can see a very heavy explosion here. Here we can see another video with explosion. Here we can see more details about this attack with a drone. And here we can see the morning in the city of Kiev on the 24th of January of 2026. As you can see, total blackout. No lights, no electricity, just cars. So the only source of power, the only source of lights in the city of Kiev today is vehicles, probably trains, trucks, and so on. No light, no power, and the situation is critical. And the Russians carried out this massive attack because they wanted to press the Ukraine's delegation on the territory of the United Arab Emirates. As you may know, yesterday there was first round of talks between Ukraine's, Russia's, and US delegations. They were talking about territorial concessions. Furthermore, the sources reported that buffer zones and control mechanisms are among the topics of the negotiations on the Ukrainian Abu Dhabi, reports TASS. We have lots of the statements, we have pictures of delegations, we have the delegation of the United States of America, the list of these delegations, so lots of things, but the sources are saying that the parties haven't managed to achieve any concessions by the end of the first days of talks. This morning, the second round of talks have already begun, and this round began right after the Russians finished with their massive missiles attacks and drone attack through the territory of Ukraine. So the Russians were trying to force Ukraine to change its position, but telling the truth, we believe that Ukrainians are not going to change anything. They're going to return back to Ukraine, and everything will continue. Anyway, let's wait and see. And as of now, let's discuss the situation on the ground. And first, let's talk about the Zaporozhye direction. During the previous 12 hours, the Russians continued their offensive operation. The Ukrainians managed to bring additional forces and to establish these forces along the railways between the cities of Zaliznychne and Pokrovskaya. So now the Russians are attacking these positions with FPV drones, trying to destroy Ukrainian vehicles, tanks, artillery forces, and systems. So we see that the Russians are not moving forward in the western direction. Too many forces from the Ukrainian side and huge problems with logistics through the river of Gaichul. So that is why the Russians are not able to move further. So it will take time, it will take weeks, maybe months before the Russians are able to destroy Ukrainian vehicles and reinforcements in this area, and only then the Russians will be able to advance further. As for the Dobropolye direction, nothing special. We have just a video where we can see how Russians were attacking positions of the armored forces of Ukraine on the territory of the settlement of Grishino without changes on the ground. The biggest changes on the ground are coming from the city of Konstantinovka and from the Konstantinovka direction. First, let's compare the map between the dates. This is the end of the 23rd of January. This is the beginning of the 24th of January. The Russians improved their positions in the residential area to the east of the city. The Russians improved their positions in the central part, and the Russians continue advancing further in the northern part of the city of Konstantinovka. These are the changes. We came to this conclusion and we adjusted the map based on the reports published by pro-Russian sources and based on the video that was published by a pro-Ukrainian source. Here we can see an FPV drone of the armored forces of Ukraine that was attacking buildings and positions, possible positions of the armored forces of the Russian Federation in this area. Based on this video, we have adjusted the map. Furthermore, we received videos from the most northern part of the city. Here we can see the moment when the Russians destroyed the bridge that connected the city of Konstantinovka with the mainland. We can see lots of explosives established below the bridge, and as a result of this attack, the bridge was completely destroyed. But this bridge wasn't destroyed yesterday. This is just the video where we can see how exactly the Russians were destroying the bridge. The bridge was destroyed several days ago, and if you remember, we were talking about this, and we had this, let's say, article. So this is the consequence. These are the consequences of attack, and the bridge was destroyed around the 19th of January of 2026. And right after this, the Russians began their offensive operation. And just now we received the video of how exactly the Russians were attacking the bridge and destroying it. Furthermore, we have lots of vehicles that were trying to answer the siege of Konstantinovka from the north, and how the Russians were attacking them with FPV drones. As for the Slaviansk direction, small changes were recorded in the area of the settlement of Riznikovka based on the video published by pro-Ukrainian sources. Here we can see how Ukrainians were attacking Russians while they were moving through the village in the western direction. Based on this video, we made small changes, small adjustment. The Liman direction, nothing special, we haven't received anything. The Kupiansk direction, the same story. And the Volchansk, Kharkiv directions, during the previous 12 hours, we received lots of important updates. First of all, the Russians improved their positions in the village of Gravska. We expected that the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation will confirm this information today, but they did not do this. But we have some changes. The Russians are finishing the battle, and right before I start making the video, we received the report that the Russians established complete control over the village by the name of Staritsa. We will adjust the map in coming minutes, and during the next video we will discuss everything in details. So the second day of talks have begun. We are waiting for additional updates, and if we don't see any results, most likely this upcoming night the Russians may launch another massive attack. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.